Alrighty, so after I finished my last episode of the Moving Forward series where I look at the defending MLS Cup champion NYCFC, it's time to do a new series, which is the season preview, where we're going to look at all 28 MLS teams and do a season preview for all of them. And even though there's still about a little over a month before the regular season begin, I'm going to have to, on some day, have to do 2 season preview or even 3 season preview episode at a time because I want to make sure that I get to do all 28 teams season preview before the week leading up to the regular season, because that week I only have to do the preview of the opening weekend game, but I also will do some video that is related for the upcoming season. So like emotion index, looking at each head coach and where they are in terms of the firing index meter and all the other thing. And then most importantly, I'm going to be doing the prediction in terms of predicting how the standing is going to look, and I guarantee that is going to be completely wrong by the end of the year, just like what I did when I predicted the table last season, and I got most of them wrong. But that being said, going back to what I talked about today, where I'm going to kick off the season preview, and what I'm going to do is that I'm actually going to first look at the 5 teams that is going to be in CCL in the season preview, because I want to get them done, because their season technically will kick off a little bit earlier than every other team, because they're going to be in the CONCACAF Champions League. And then of course we'll talk about the expansion team Charlotte FC before we go from an order where it depends on which team, of course, where each team finish. And I think I'll start with teams that finished last in the standings and then go from up there. So it's going to be very similar to how I did the order in terms of top out teams in the Moving Forward series. So that being said, today we're going to first talk about the Seattle Sounders in the season preview of 2022. And against the Sounders is one of the 5 teams that's going to be going to CCL and playing their first CCL games in a couple of weeks. Now, last season they finished with a record of 17-9-8 and finished with 60 points. They scored 53 goals, allowed 33 goals, and had a goal differential of plus 20. They finished the season in second place, but as we know from last season, they definitely suffered, perhaps the first time in their franchise history, a shock home defeat at home in the hands of RSL in the playoffs. But as we look at the last 5 seasons, I mean, there's a reason why I'm pretty sure when I do my prediction this season of the Western Conference, I'm going to just put the Seattle Sounders in second place, because it's incredible the fact that the last 5 seasons, that's where they finished. Like, the last time they did not finish second in the West was 2016, where I think they finished like fourth in the West, but they ended up winning their first ever MLS Cup that year. But yeah, like I said, last season they finished second, but only got eliminated in the first round. Before in 2020, they finished second and went to MLS Cup against the Columbus Crew, but lost that one. They did win it in 2019, winning at home against Toronto after they finished second in the Western Conference. 2018, they finished second again in the Western Conference, but was eliminated in the second round in the first ever Cascadia derby in the playoffs against the Portland Timbers. And then in 2017, we know that they also finished second and they went to MLS Cup once again. And the team that they were facing, you guessed it, is Toronto FC. But TFC, of course, got their revenge from the previous year and won MLS Cup, and the Sounders weren't able to repeat as champion. Now, in terms of some of the transfer this offseason, so this is not a big surprise, the fact that the Sounders didn't really do a lot of business in the winter transfer window, because knowing this front office and knowing Garth Lagerwey, he likes to do his business during the summer transfer window. Though, one big signing that they did make this offseason is bringing Albert Rusnak from RSL, and there's been so much rumor of that throughout the off season, and there was some case that maybe he wasn't actually going to be going to the Sounders. I mean, some says he's going to stay with RSL, some say he's going to go to the Sounders, some even say he's going to the Galaxy, some even say that he could be going down to South America to join Boca Junior, and then there's times where he was pretty much like with every single team in MLS, but ultimately he decided to join the Seattle Sounders as a designated player. But besides that, 2 other players that they brought in through the Super Draft are Dylan Terrace and Achille Robbins. Now, players that is leaving the Seattle Sounders this season, we got Shane O'Neill going to Toronto FC and Spencer Ritchie going to Chicago Fire. They got Nicholas Benze and Jordy Dillon currently, both of those players that were not declined their contract option when the Sounders made their end of season roster, and now they are still free agency and still are looking for a new club. So the optimism for the Seattle Sounders for this upcoming season. Well, it's pretty obvious that they're the Seattle Sounders. Like I think we can all agree that if you're a Sounders fan, I'm pretty sure they're optimistic the fact that this is obviously going to be a good season and that they're going to be a team that is going to finish second in the Western Conference before making their usual playoff run and hope to win MLS Cup again. So, obviously the optimism is going to be there. And especially, I think the other optimism about this team, which is the second point I'm going to get to, is that they really have the best starting 11. If they feel their strongest starting 11. Like, when you look at this team is stacked from top to bottom. If they put out their best starters in this. I mean, starting with goalkeeper in Stephen Fry, one of the top 5 goalkeeper in the league. The back line, obviously, it's going to be good, especially with that partnership of Arriaga and Yeimar. In the midfield, you got Christian Rodon, of course, for patrolling the midfield and then going for on the attack and even on the wing area. I mean, I've mentioned before that attack and that the potential front four of Rui Diaz, Morris, Ladero, and Rusnak, that is going to be a very dangerous front for going forward. And yeah, they do have their best starting 11, which last season, they did have trouble in terms of fielding their best starting 11 because rarely they've been able to have all their best player available because of injury. And I expect, maybe this season is going to be potentially the same case because it's always hard for a team to have all their best starters healthy throughout the entire part of the season. I mean, I'm hoping that if you're a Sounders fan, you're hoping that of course is the case, but we've seen before where it's almost impossible that of course is going to happen, and injuries of course would happen, and especially with the whole COVID thing that is still lingering. You never know if some of these guys could be potentially going through the COVID protocol throughout the season. Now, concern for this Sounders team. Well, there really isn't a lot of concern other than the fact that, they do still lack some depth in some area. And I will say that the depth that they do lack is the back line because, besides having a decent back line with Yeimar and Arriaga and also Alex Rodon playing the fullback position, they don't really have a lot of depth in terms of backline. Especially, they also decide not to re-sign Shane O'Neill, who was one of the players that could really step in case if Arriaga or Yeimar goes down with injury. Well, now that they don't have that luxury, it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to maybe think about adding some more depth. I mean, it seems like they're probably not going to do it now, but we'll see how that's going to be the case. Will they get Rui Diaz signed on not a permanent contract, but more like a contract extension? And again, I'm thinking that it's going to happen. I mean, I've heard a lot of report that Rui Diaz is pretty close in terms of signing himself a contract extension, and barring if there's any last minute rumor that's not going to happen, I think Rui Diaz should be back to the Seattle Sounders team. And then, of course, lastly, where will Rusnak fit in this system? I mean, bring Albert Rusnak to the Sounders. It was kind of an interesting signing because, the Sounders, they don't really need another good attacking piece. They've already are very loaded going forward on the attack. So, with Rusnak coming in there, is he going to be playing in the position that Ladero basically plays in? And it's also kind of interesting that, this offseason, a lot of people are starting to speculate what's going to happen with Nico Ladero. I mean, last season when he came back from injury, he was okay, but he wasn't like the same Nico Ladero that we've seen from previous season. And I'm assuming this year they were going to get him back healthy, and he's going to be looking like one of the top three number 10 in the league. But it just feels like maybe the Sounders don't think that is going to be the case, so that's why they bought Rusnak. They didn't buy Rusnak. He was a free agent, but they decided to sign him on a DP contract. And obviously, you know that they're not going to just have Rusnak come to the Sounders and just sit on the bench. I mean, I'm assuming Brian Schmetzer is going to figure this out, but I guess what he could do is that maybe just play Rusnak on the wing and still have Ladero as a number 10. And Rusnak has been at times playing on the wing when he was with RSL, but yeah, that's going to be interesting with the way that they technically have two very gifted number 10, and unless if Schmetzer decide to go over formation where you can have two good attacking midfielder play in the same system, he's going to have to figure out which one he's going to choose and which one he's going to probably move out. And there also could be speculation that maybe Rusnak is the future in that playmaker role, and maybe Ladero is now starting to take more of a super sub role. And Ladero is starting to get up to the age, but I don't think it's at a time where he probably is going to be in that super sub role. And I'm pretty sure Ladero don't want to hear the fact that he's going to be relegated as a super sub, because at the end of the day, he knows that he wants to still contribute this team, and he doesn't want to follow the same path that Valeri, of course, was ultimately have to accept that he was a super sub and didn't really quite do it very well during his dwindling time with the Portland Timbers. Now, MVP of this team, this team has so many good players. It's tough to choose an MVP, but at the end of the day, I am still going to go with Raul Ruidiaz. Again, I think he is still the most important player in the Sounders team, and you saw last season when they didn't have him, you could see how much they miss him. And again, this is of course thinking that he is going to be signing a contract extension, but once he does sign a contract extension, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to show the Sounders that they made the right decision. And once again, he's going to be a guy that I could say that he could be a contender for not only the most goal of this team, but also a player that's going to try to contend for the Golden Boot like he did last season. Comeback player for this team, I mean, this one is pretty easy. It's the guy that, of course, won the Comeback Player of the Award just a couple of years ago, and I have a feeling he could potentially win it again this year, and that, of course, is Jordan Morris. I mean, we saw what he did a couple of years when he won that Comeback Player of the Year, coming off of a torn ACL injury, and you kind of saw that last season. There could be the potential that we're going to see that happen again, and that, again, I think Morris is going to have a great season, and he is definitely gunning to have a great season too, because he knows that it is very important for him to have a good season so he can be on the national team conversation. And even though I think he was in the, if I remember from yesterday when I talked about the U.S. men's national team roster, I don't think he was on the World Cup qualifying roster yet. I might be completely wrong, but that he is motivated to do so, and that he, it's kind of unprecedented for an MLS player to, of course, get into the national team conversation. But we've seen it before, where if you do play well in MLS, and I know the national team is now more focused on getting guys that is currently playing in Europe, but Greg Berhalter, he's not afraid to choose some of his MLS guys that he trusts, and I'm pretty sure he definitely trusts Jordan Morris if Morris is going to have a great year with the Sounders and have a very, 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 very similar year that he had. I think back in 2018, I believe. I think 2017 was the year he suffered his first torn ACL, and then the very next year he basically lighted up again and become Comeback Player of the Year. I think he's going to have a very similar year heading into this upcoming season. So, expectation for the Seattle Sounders team. Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's an MLS Cup or bust kind of team, and they definitely want to put away what happened last season when they suffered that shock early playoff exit. Go deep in the CONCACAF Champions League and possibly win it all. I mean, they have the pieces to definitely win the CONCACAF Champions League, and they kind of showed last year that they can actually stand up against Mexican opponent. I mean, I know before we've seen that this Sounders team, they always tend to find ways to choke the CONCACAF Champions League, and some might even say that maybe they're not taking that very seriously, or at least for what Brian Schmetzer thinks, they think that he's not taking it very seriously. I don't think so. I think Schmetzer this season, he knows that he wants to win this competition and make some history. And again, knowing what happened last season in the League Cup, where they came just so close of becoming the first MLS team to win the League Cup over Liga MX's rival Lyon. That's going to be interesting to see whether or not if they can do it again. Now, that being said, when you look at the path that they have to go through in terms of going to CCL final, it's not going to be easy. They actually are in one of the tougher paths, and that if they do win their opening round, the very next round they could potentially be lined up for a rematch of the League Cup's final against Club Lyon, and that's going to be one that could really be a sign of seeing whether or not if the Sounders are ready to compete in this competition. Because if they can, of course, win win that game, then there is definitely a huge sign that they could definitely go as deep into the CCL final. Though, as I said, they're not in a very easy bracket, and if they want to win this competition and make some history, they're probably going to have to do it the hard way. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Seattle Sounders fan, heading into this upcoming season, what do you think is your optimism, your concern, MVP, comeback player, and also your expectation? What do you think this team is going to be for this upcoming season? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.